Why did the Pope of the Hall of Martial Soul become a pillow, being held to sleep by night? Why was Ian's memory modified and he personally destroyed the blue-silver emperor bloodline of his son Tang San? Xiaowu was forcibly taken as a pet rabbit and forced to make a living by eating carrots. Zhu Zhuqing succumbed to the catnip, but her cold face shyly called out to her master. Poseidon was also forcibly abducted, and in the end, he personally took off his lover Tang Chen's head. Is this a moral decline or Shang? That's right, I did all of this. In order to become immortal and immortal, Shang can only endure the hardships of his three brothers. In Xia Shang, with the courtesy name of Hammer Tang San and the title of Master Gon. Keywords of the novel. Douluo. I am a demon from outside the domain without a pop-up window. Douluo. I am a demon from outside the domain. Download the complete set of TXT. Douluo. I am a demon from outside the domain. Latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Above Kunlun Mountains. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Above Kunlun Mountains, Tang San, Zhu Ji Li San Duan, level. Low. A few glaring big characters lit up on the chrysanthemum measuring pillar as the middle-aged man blurted out his words. There was no unexpected commotion of mockery on the field. 3 paragraphs, as I expected, this genius has been standing still this year. Hey, this trash has really disgraced our Shrek village. If it weren't for his teacher and village chief being good friends, this kind of trash would have been kicked out of Shrek long ago and left to fend for itself. There wouldn't be any chance to stay in the village. Why did it become like this? Where exactly is this? This is not the world he is familiar with. Where has his martial soul gone again? Tang San's fingers penetrated deeply into the flesh. 13 years ago, a cold wind blew by, brushing against the white snow on the mountaintop. At this moment, a figure appeared on the rarely traveled peak of Kunlun Mountain. The figures and snow scenery almost blend together. I saw the person wearing a thin white robe, with hair tied up and a hairpin inserted, walking barefoot in this icy and snowy land. The cold wind brushed against his cheek, but could not blow his long black hair. Surrounded by wind and frost, the person walked to the top of the mountain, and suddenly the heavens and earth pale, like a banished immortal descending to the mortal world. The combination of a handsome and immortal appearance and an indescribable unique temperament creates a charm that can easily captivate all living beings with a faint smile. The body of the exiled immortal exuded a warm and jade-like aura, which immediately made people feel fond of it. He looked down at the white snow under his feet, frowning slightly, and the atmosphere on the mountain suddenly became tense. Has the ancient teleportation array on Kunlun Mountain been buried by heavy snow? A divine light flashed through my eyes, peering through layers of white snow towards the teleportation ancient formation below. It should still be usable. If I continue to stay in this world of the end of the Dharma, my physical body will not be able to cultivate into an immortal body, and sooner or later it will decay. To survive as a primordial god is ultimately not my wish. Moreover, in this world of the end of the Dharma, even my great freedom heavenly demon primordial god will decay, but it will only take an extra 1 or 2,000 years. I can only give it a try. 300 years ago, there was still spiritual energy in heaven and earth. Although there were few spiritual creatures and immortal herbs, there were still some. But now, even the so-called cave heaven blessed land has no trace of spiritual energy. Even the heavenly master's mansion, which led the pursuit of me the most frequently, has no one to enter the world. This world is even more despairing. It is said that the summit of Kunlun leads directly to the immortal realm. If it is nourished by the spiritual energy of the immortal realm, the immortal body can be formed, and the path of immortality is promising. Shang closed his eyes and used Tai's divine number to deduce the probability of a successful teleportation array 0.8%. He then deduced it several times, but it still remained the same. 80% chance, you can give it a try. Shang pulled out a small snake from his arms. The snake was snow-white all over, with a faint radiance emanating from its scales. It did not appear cold, but instead looked very holy. Shang gently stroked the scales of the white snake. Xiao Bai, I am the last cultivator in the era of the end of the Dharma, and you are the last demon in the era of the end of the Dharma. Today, I will activate this ancient teleportation formation to release the spiritual contract and give you freedom. You go on your own. Xiao Bai closed his eyes and enjoyed Shang's touch. Upon hearing this, he shook his snake head like a human and then plunged his head into Shang's sleeve. Anyway, today we will go and witness the beauty of the immortal world. Shang didn't say anything more, but sat cross-legged on the mountaintop. Time passed quickly, and the moon came up and went down again. A ray of sunshine slightly appeared in the east, and Shang, who had been sitting for a long time, stood up. The time has come. I saw Shang's body's magical power surging, and a series of magic spells penetrated into the underground formation, finally transmitting his body's magical power into the formation. Suddenly, the snow beneath my feet cracked and the earth shook, as if a natural disaster had struck. Shang quickly activated his magic and floated in the air. At this moment, he stood in the air, with cracked and falling snow and rolling rocks below, adding a third of his immortal aura. Who knows that this is an evil way that scared all factions like tigers 300 years ago. After a quarter of an hour, the earth under Shang's feet gradually returned to calm, and a golden light ran through the sky from bottom to top, enveloping him. Then, he quietly left the world with Shang. Immediately after, the large formation, which had been deprived of spiritual nourishment for a long time, automatically extinguished its final radiance. No one knows, the last great cultivator and the last demon in the world left from the last ancient teleportation array. In the dark, Shang felt like he was in a void, but he also realized that his physical body and spirit were constantly being squeezed and compressed. He didn't open his eyes, or rather didn't dare to open them, as if he would encounter some great terror when he did. His intuition has always been very accurate. I don't know how long it has been drifting, but it seems to have reached the edge of a certain world, and that sense of emptiness begins to weaken. At this moment, a terrifying, strong wind blew, and Shang felt like a fish being beaten by the big waves, deviating from his original direction. Then he lost consciousness. Martial Soul Hall Orphanage, a child, like a porcelain doll, was sitting on the bed, holding a book titled, Complete Classification of Soul Beasts. The child was none other than Shang. At the peak of Kunlun Mountain, the ancient teleportation array was opened and entered the space channel. However, an accident occurred and the time and space were unstable. When I woke up again, I was already in the orphanage of the Martial Soul Hall. According to the dean, he was a baby picked up by a Martial Soul Palace attendant while on a mission. When he first picked it up, he was still unconscious. If it weren't for his weak breathing, he might have thought it was a corpse. After being rescued and treated, he was sent to the Martial Soul Hall Orphanage because he couldn't find his parents, and Shang also began living in an orphanage in a different world. In a blink of an eye, it was 6 years, and his flesh and bones, compressed by time and space, had also reached 6 years old. He is about 1 meter tall, with a faint baby fat on his face. He is carved in powder and jade, as if the turbulence of time and space has really turned him into a child. Fortunately, his physical body is still this one. Shang is not accustomed to using someone else's body, otherwise he would not have pursued achieving immortal and immortal physical bodies in his past life. He still exudes a jade-like temperament, which is likable and can't help but want to get close to him. After all, he is based on the Great Freedom Manual and cultivates the path of the Great Freedom Heavenly Demon. As for the Heavenly Demon, anyone who understands it can understand it. At first, Shang didn't realize which world it was until he learned the language of this world and heard the words Soul Master and Soul Ring before he realized it. Just like the novel Douluo Continent he saw in his previous life, it is true that although Shang is an old monster who has lived for over 400 years, he also knows how to keep up with the times. And with the help of the primordial spirit, his memory and computational abilities are no less than those of the most advanced computers before his time traveling, making it easy to learn various knowledge. Unfortunately, after crossing over, everything has to be restarted, and for the time being, one cannot enjoy the convenience of the primordial spirit. In his previous life, besides studying natural sciences, he also had a wide range of knowledge in various novels, and many of the imaginations in the novels provided him with a lot of help in improving his Great Freedom Sutra. Douluo Continent is a relatively early fantasy novel, and at that time he felt that this martial soul was quite magical. The spirit of martial arts is like the original treasure of ancient alchemists on Earth, while the spirit of beast martial arts is somewhat similar to those demonic cultivators who used to cultivate their bodies. According to Shang's current understanding and inference, this should be the 6th year of the Pope's accession, which is the time when the plot is about to begin. Meanwhile, today is also the day when he is about to awaken his martial soul. Shaoan, come and gather quickly. Today, I will take you to awaken your martial soul. A soft female voice came from outside the door, and it was the director of the Martial Soul Hall Orphanage, a little girl in her 70s. Okay, Grandma Chin, I'll be right over. Shang closed the book in his hand, got up, and walked towards the door. The room was 8 people, but the other few children couldn't resist loneliness and were playing in the small park of the orphanage. Shang naturally doesn't spend time with a few little kids, so he often stays in the dormitory reading books, and there is only Shang in the room. Shang came out of the room and followed Teacher Qin. Like Shang, there were 7 children, 4 men and 3 women, who awakened their martial souls today. In the original work, they should be the kind of people summarized in the Martial Soul Palace, not including dragon sets, let's not mention them. On the annual day of Martial Soul Awakening, the square in front of the Martial Soul Temple in the eastern district of Martial Soul City is filled with people. Most of them are accompanied by parents, and there are also those who come from orphanages like Shang. There are over 10 orphanages in Wuhuan City, including 4 in the Eastern District, and the orphanage where Shang is located is one of them. These orphanages are all funded and established by the Martial Soul Hall, mainly adopting orphans who have lost their parents or been abandoned. Of course, after awakening their innate soul power, these orphans will also join the Martial Soul Hall, which is also one of the sources of personnel in the Martial Soul Hall. And these adopted orphans are inherently more loyal to the Martial Soul Hall. For them, the Martial Soul Hall is their home, and naturally they will support the rule of the Martial Soul Hall more. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Martial Soul Awakening. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Martial Soul Awakening. A few orphanage children next to Shang looked enviously at the children being pulled by their parents. If possible, they also thought they were children favored by their parents. Shang doesn't feel much about this. Although he studied under a teacher in his past life, he often returned home to serve his parents. There are also several older brothers taking care of him at home. He is considered the youngest son of his parents. When he was born, his father was already in his 50s, and his mother was also in her 40s. My parents passed away around the age of 267 in Shang, and at that time, they were considered to have lived a long life. It was only after seeing off his parents that he decided to secretly learn forbidden techniques, ultimately becoming a so-called cult. Over the past few hundred years, he has also looked down upon such scenes, and naturally smiled at them. 15 minutes later, almost all the people who came to awaken the martial soul arrived, and the martial soul awakening ceremony officially began. A temple bishop wearing a white gold robe walked out of the main hall, followed by several black bishops and more than 10 armored temple guards. He beckoned everyone to line up and go to the temple to awaken their martial souls. The children lined up one by one and walked in, while the adults waited outside. According to the rules, adults cannot follow in when the martial soul awakens. The temple guards were blocking the door, and the adults could only wait anxiously at the entrance, some even probing their heads to see what was happening inside. Like the parents waiting outside the college entrance examination room in the past life of Shang. And the awakening of martial soul is even more important than the college entrance examination in previous lives, because your martial soul and innate soul power will determine your life. After the test, children come out, they are immediately pulled by their parents to inquire or directly see the proof from the soul master. Parents with high innate soul power naturally burst into tears of joy. Not good, parents may be depressed, but they will also gently comfort their children, and there are also angry ones, but they are just individuals. Half an hour passed in a flash, and finally it was Shang and his group's turn. Before entering, the dean's grandmother repeatedly reminded. Children, don't panic after entering, everything is arranged by the bishop. Subsequently, Shang followed the team into the martial soul temple, which was mainly white with angel statues carved on the walls. Overall, it was grand and solemn. In the middle of the hall stood the bishop who had been wearing a platinum robe before, who was also the platinum bishop of the eastern district of Martial Soul City. In front of him was a six-pointed star formation composed of 6 shining gemstones, which was the Martial Soul Awakening formation and the gentlest way for generations of soul masters to help awaken the martial soul. On the other side, there is also a blue crystal ball used to test innate soul power. The platinum bishop nodded. Line up and come one by one. The first one, Su Wu. Su Wu was a young man with dark skin and a robust physique, unlike a 6-year-old child. He walked forward and entered the 6-pointed star formation. Following the guidance of the nearby instructor, Su Wu released his martial soul. Martial soul flame crazy scarlet, not bad. Now let's test our innate soul power. Soul power crystal ball illuminates innate 7th level soul power, good and impressive. With hard cultivation, there is a chance for soul Douluo. Su Wu's face also showed a happy expression, clearly satisfied with himself. Shang couldn't help but glance slightly, not to say envious, but surprised by the strength of the martial soul city, and casually encountered an innate 7th level soul power. You should know that in other villages and towns on the Douluo continent, having a soul power one can be considered a great joy, let alone having an innate 7th level soul power. Zhu Zhuqing from the Shrek 7 monsters is only a 7th level innate soul power. The next Li Ji, the colorful cat with martial soul, possesses innate 4th level soul power. The bishop continued. Nagasaki, Moonlight Wolf, innate level 5 soul power. Song Yi, Bloodthirsty Vine, innate level 5 soul power. Guqin Sha, Big Watermelon, innate 3rd level soul power. The next few may not be as good as Su Wu, but most of them are also between the innate 3rd and 6th levels, which can be said to have a bright future. Soon, it was Shang-An's turn. Shang-An quickly walked to the 6-pointed star formation and stood still. Under the guidance of a nearby instructor, he began to sense his martial soul. Quickly, his body was enveloped by the radiance of the 6-pointed star formation, and a gentle energy spread throughout his body. At the same time, an invisible force was about to burst out of his body. Seeing that Shang-An's hands were empty, the bishop continued to increase his soul power output. You should know that in the past, this was a situation that only occurred when awakening true geniuses, and perhaps this kid is also in this situation. The bishop's heart was secretly filled with joy, and a faint smile couldn't help but appear on his numb face. Perhaps today he can have another genius under his hands, which is his credit. The bishop continued to increase his soul power output for 1 or 2 minutes, and suddenly, the power inside Shang-An's body seemed to have found a breakthrough. A bead wrapped in a chaotic airflow appeared on his right hand, while a breath of the beginning of all things emerged from the bead. In a strange space beneath the starry forest, a silver dragon with beautiful bright silver scales quietly woke up. What is that? But the familiar aura quickly disappeared, and he dared not explore too much, because the gods in the sky were constantly monitoring below, closing his eyes again. The familiar aura is in the main hall. The bead still exuded a strong pressure, and the bishop's martial soul began to tremble. You should know that he himself was a high-level martial soul, or an 8-ring soul Douluo. Today, he trembled because of a bead, revealing a sense of fear. Super martial soul, at least super martial soul. The bishop shouted loudly in his heart, and at the same time, his smile became even brighter. He spoke gently to Shang. Come on, child, let's test our innate soul power again. Shang nodded and placed his hand on the soul power crystal. A dazzling light lit up, blinding the eyes of several people around him. The bishop opened his mouth wide. The soul power crystal ball of the martial soul city is different from the crystal balls carried by ordinary deacons. It is an advanced crystal ball that can measure 50 levels of soul power. And now the light emitted by this soul power crystal far exceeds the radiance that innate full soul power can emit. This is, innate level 20, innate level 20 soul power. The bishop suddenly calmed down and looked around at a few people. You guys stay here, no one is allowed to leave. I'm going to meet the Pope's coronation. Smiling at Shang again, he said. Child, your name is Shang, right? Please wait here for a moment and I will be back soon. Shang nodded obediently. With his talent, he should have reported this matter directly, but it was okay. He had never thought of hiding it before. Then he looked at the martial soul on his right hand, how familiar it was. Isn't this the bead he had previously refined to store magic? How did it turn out like this? Did it absorb some variation in the chaos of time and space? He was very certain that this bead was not a chaos bead, but a Tai bead. Although its name was domineering, it was just an ordinary magic tool bead that he had refined in his previous life to store magic. Carefully feeling my own martial soul, I also received some information from it. Tai Zhu contains the power of origin in its body, which has the ability to evolve all things and shape the universe. At the same time, it also has extremely high compatibility with martial souls. Perhaps this bead sucked in a strand of primordial power in the turmoil of time and space, greatly improving its quality. And it also turned into his martial soul, and it looks like a very powerful martial soul, with an innate level of 20. In this world, only Qian Renxue has an innate level of 20 soul power, right? After arriving in this world, he began to practice the Great Freedom Manual, but he also knew that the Great Freedom Manual could not help him break the level 10 soul power limit. It seems that it is also the credit of this martial soul. Moreover, he felt that he still had a martial soul, which was transformed by his great free and ethereal heavenly demon elemental spirit, and should be considered as his true martial soul. Shang referred to him as the great immortal demon lord, and his martial soul was even more unique. He could not attach a soul ring, but it would grow with Shang's growth. At present, there is only the most basic ability of mind demon cultivation, which can use spiritual power to actively or passively influence others. It can even condense demon seeds and plant them into the body of others. Heart demons are born from the thoughts or obsession of others combined with the breath of Shang. As long as the obsession is still present, it will not be eliminated and can affect a person's mind, equivalent to putting a halo of descending intelligence on the enemy. And Shang can also subtly change others through the power of his soul. This is not about controlling, but guiding others by amplifying or shrinking some of their inner regrets, remorse, and various emotions. Compared to rough controllers, this kind of subtle influence is the most terrifying. This is also one of the abilities he developed in his past life. He thought he needed to cultivate his elemental spirit, but he didn't expect it to turn into his martial soul. Unfortunately, his current spiritual strength is too low. Although he has reached an extremely advanced level of cultivation in his past life, he still has to start over after a time and space turmoil. However, it can also be considered a blessing in disguise, not only arriving in a world with little threat but abundant spiritual energy. After being compressed and baptized by the turmoil of time and space, his already outstanding qualifications became even more outstanding, and he easily cultivated to the realm of enlightenment. If it weren't for the soul ring restriction, it might have been more agile now. Based on his understanding of the Douluo continent in his past and present lives, as well as his grasp of his own realm, he also made a comparison between the realms of the two realms. Building a foundation, exercising the body, proficient in literature. Soul Warrior, 1.10, entering the Tao. Soul Master, 11.20, Ling Dong. Great Soul Master, 21.30, Fetal Breath. Soul Master and Soul Sect, 31.50, Purple Mansion. Soul King and Soul Emperor, 51.70, Life Pill. Soul Saint and Soul Douluo, 71.90, Chunyang. Title Douluo, 91.99, Genshin Impact. Quasi-God, Divine Officer. This level comparison may not be accurate, but it should also be very close. Speaking of which, although my previous cultivation system was called cultivation, which many people consider to be immortal, its destructive power was actually not strong and could not be compared to some imaginative fairy tales. At least Shang has never seen the power of holding the sun, moon, and stars. However, it's normal. The earth is just so big. If it were really like in the cultivation novel, if it were to move, the continent would capsize, dragons and snakes would fight in turn, and the world would probably have been played out long ago. Of course, the height of the Tao is not just described by its destructive power. Although Douluo is jokingly referred to as a fantasy sewer by netizens, in this real world, it doesn't feel that much. Many books record that some titled Douluo went all out to destroy the city. Regarding the battle power of Qian Renxue and Tang San after they became gods in the later period, he speculated that they had just become gods and had not reached the peak of the inherited divine position, at most only the strength of a level 100 divine official. After all, there are too many bugs in the novels written by Douluo, and now as a real world, it is obvious that there will be no bugs. He naturally cannot fully follow the setting in the novel, and the original work can only serve as a reference. And what is written is only the tip of the iceberg on this continent. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. The Papal Palace. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. The Papal Palace. His current strength is the pinnacle of entering the realm, which is the level 20 quasi-great soul master. Due to the limitations of heaven and earth in his previous life, when he was practicing, the spiritual energy in the world was already scarce. Even with his talent, it took him a full 10 years to enter the path. If nothing unexpected happened, he would have stopped at the Purple Mansion at most in his life, not to mention the declining spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Under duress, he learned forbidden techniques in order to break the limitations of heaven and earth. What is forbidden magic? Naturally it is some techniques that damage yin virtue or have great defects. He has practiced many access control techniques before, one of which is called Soul Origin Sutra, which can absorb the essence of ghosts and strengthen the original spirit. It not only damages yin virtue, but also poses a risk of causing schizophrenia. However, he never considered himself a good person and had no psychological pressure to absorb the essence of ghosts. It was also during the chaotic times that there were many battles and ghosts, and Shang had a firm will to maintain his true self. Through his continuous improvement, he was able to successfully cultivate. In order to practice martial arts, he has also caused many murders, and even set off 100 Ghosts Night tour in a small eastern country. However, he rarely practices and uses forbidden spells in China. On the one hand, he is from his hometown, and on the other hand, he is afraid of being troubled by various major sections. Unfortunately, there is no impermeable wall in the world. His practice of forbidden techniques and the creation of murderous deeds are still well known. He was thus referred to as an evil way, and many Taoist masters even carried the ancestral sect's magical tools down the mountain to subdue demons and eliminate them. Later, he was forced to hide until he broke through Chunyang and suppressed all major sections. Then he seized the secret scriptures of various Buddhist and Taoist schools, learned from each other's strengths and weaknesses, and cultivated 100 scriptures in a furnace. After going through countless hardships, he created the first version of the Great Freedom Sutra. Finally, at the end of spiritual energy, cultivate the realm of the primordial spirit. It is also due to a lack of spiritual energy that his physical body cannot transform into an immortal body. Otherwise, he may be able to achieve immortality directly in the end of the Dharma era, without the need to rely on the teleportation array on Kunlun Mountain. However, although he lost his previous life's spiritual power, he improved his own talent, and this realm has abundant spiritual energy, with the possibility of immortality and longevity within reach. It can only be said that misfortune and good fortune depend on each other, and there will be gains and losses. Just as Shang was pondering, a figure dressed in a black robe walked in from the entrance of the temple, as if it were real or illusory. Everyone couldn't see his face clearly, but they could feel his gaze scanning the main hall before finally settling on Shang. This should be the ghost Douluo among the two generals in the martial soul hall, Hoha. Shang secretly thought to himself, "Are you Shang?" Gue Douluo's voice rang out, and he had tried to restrain himself as much as possible, but his words still appeared cold and chilling. A timid child might even be scared. However, this is also influenced by his own martial soul. Shang knew that Gue Douluo's martial soul, ghost, was actually his own soul. Therefore, calling him a living dead person is also a very accurate statement. Ghost Douluo was a very talented person in his childhood, and his martial soul was just a very insignificant ghost fire. Let everyone have no expectations for him, the children bully him, and even his family doesn't like him. This made Ghost Douluo's childhood very miserable, but Ghost Douluo had a strange encounter in this environment. One day, during a playful activity, the children in the village intentionally made him jump into a big lake. He died, but he didn't die completely, and somehow returned from the gates of hell. The soul reunited with the body, awakening a special martial soul called Ghost. At this moment, he is no longer the weak and deceitful existence he used to be, but has become a genius-like existence. After going through this rebirth-like experience, I killed all my family and friends, and also myself, leaving only one belief in my heart, which is to become stronger. After the ghost became his martial soul, it provided him with powerful power, and ultimately he achieved the title Douluo. Looking back, at this moment, he had become a person without a ghost. It turned out that there was no longer the same young man in the world, only the powerful and mysterious ghost Douluo remained. The ghost Douluo in Douluo continent is a character that Shang has a deep memory of. After all, rebirth after death transforms the soul into a martial soul, which shares the same beauty as his original spirit and has great research value. Thinking about it, Shang nodded and looked curiously at Gue Douluo with his two pure big eyes. "Then come with me, the Pope wants to see you under his crown." After speaking, the ghost waved to Shang, gesturing for him to follow him, then turned around and walked towards the direction of the papal palace. For some reason, he felt that the child's gaze at him was a bit strange, giving him a creepy feeling. Shang obediently followed behind Douluo. In the martial soul city, there is an iron-like prohibition, which is to ban emptiness. In the martial soul city, all soul masters are not allowed to fly in the sky. As long as flying in the air in the martial soul city, it is disrespectful to the Pope, and this is a serious crime. Even if ghosts are elders of the martial soul hall, they will not fly over the martial soul city unless there is an urgent matter. Walking behind the ghosts, Shang occasionally looks around, and the order in the martial soul city is in good order, with an architectural style that leans towards the combination of ancient and modern. The street is clean and tidy, with 2 rows of neat streetlights on both sides. There are people riding horses and carriages on the road, as well as vehicles similar to cars from previous lives. Shang couldn't help but marvel, truly worthy of the Douluo continent with crooked technology tree points. Before the age of 6, Shang basically stayed in an orphanage because he was too young and the teachers in the orphanage wouldn't let the children go out freely. Therefore, most of Shang's understanding of this continent comes from novels from his past life and books from the deans and teachers in the orphanage. But after today, he will become a soul master and truly integrate into this world. Ghost Douluo remained silent all the way, and Shang didn't care either. He followed behind the ghost while observing the surroundings on his own. In no time, he passed through the heavy buildings and arrived at the front of the Papal Hall. Standing in front of the Papal Hall were several Holy Emperor warriors, and in Shang's perception, each one had a greater aura than Dean Qin of the orphanage. Although the Dean is old, he is also a genuine 5-ring Soul King, which means that these Holy Emperor warriors are highly likely to be Soul Emperors or even Soul Saints. Open the door. Ghost Douluo took out his elder token, and the Holy Emperor warrior bowed slightly before pushing open the door, which was over 10 meters high. Gue Douluo walked into the Papal Palace with Shang, who was looking around. Entering the hall of the Pope's palace, Shang's first impression was that it was large, very large, followed by a sense of ancient and magnificent history. Angel reliefs were everywhere in the Pope's palace, adding a sacred atmosphere to it. Looking towards the upper part of the main hall, a figure wearing a purple robe and a 9-curved purple golden crown, with a stunning appearance, sat upright on the papal throne in the Papal Hall. This is the current Pope Bibidong of the Martial Soul Temple. Bibidong sat elegantly, exuding a sense of authority that made one feel ashamed and indecisive. Of course, those who feel ashamed of themselves do not include Shang, who is looking at Bibidong sitting above with pure big eyes. Bibidong is not tall, about 1.7 meters tall. The golden long dress fits perfectly from head to toe, and the dazzling dress sparkles with over 100 red, blue, and gold gemstones on top. The 9-curved purple gold crown on top of the head is even more dazzling, holding a scepter about 2 meters long, inlaid with countless gemstones. Her fair skin and almost perfect appearance make her look so unique. Especially the intangible nobility and sacredness revealed on one's body can't help but evoke a feeling of reverence and reverence. Bibidong is so stunning in beauty, noble, elegant, and tranquil, and all kinds of beautiful words seem to be applicable to this woman. Although she is no longer young, the traces of time seem to have not been left on her. What a beautiful person! Shang exclaimed in his heart. In his past life, while practicing Taoism, Shang also met many women and had several marriages. Although he used to be a Chuanjian Taoist, he wouldn't stick to the rules like his third brother did. He advocates a balance between work and rest, and in addition to practicing, one should also experience the beauty of life more. Unfortunately, these women were ultimately given away by the black-haired men of Shang to the white-haired men. After all, the lifespan of mortals was too short, and no one could accompany Shang on his journey. Since then, he has never found these short-lived creatures again and devoted himself to cultivation. But Douluo continent is different. This is a world full of spiritual energy, with the potential for longevity, and many women, including Bibidong in front of them, have the ability to become gods. Well, can you relax and enjoy your body and mind while practicing? It's not shabby. See below the Pope's crown, my subordinate has already brought the person. The ghost on the side knelt down on one knee and said to Bibidong, while reaching out to touch Shang and gesturing for him to kneel. It was a bit impolite for him to stare at Bibidong like this. The Martial Soul Hall still pays great attention to etiquette. Shang is not indecisive either. He is ready to kneel on one knee at the moment, anyway, he will be his kneeling wife. He personally appreciates Bibidong quite a bit, and he sees some of his own shadow on Bibidong. And as someone else's slander, he wouldn't wear colored glasses to look at the villains in these original works. This is just a pitiful woman, and for some people, she may even be very hateful. But this has nothing to do with him, he's not a good person. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Beauty Master. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 Beauty Master, Free Gift. With a wave of his hand, Bibi Dongyu's soul power prevented Shang from kneeling down. Then he turned his head to look at the ghost on the side. Elder Ghost, thank you for your hard work. Please go down and rest first. Obey me. The ghost lowered its head and respectfully replied, then stood up and left the main hall. After the ghost left, Bibidong's gaze also fell on Shang, and he saw that the child looked cute and charming, emitting a friendly aura all over. A chubby little face made people couldn't help but want to pinch it a few times, and at this moment, he was staring up and down at himself with a pair of big eyes. Bibidong was not angry at all. If someone else dared to look at her like this, she would have slapped her a long time ago, but Shang is just a 6-year-old child. What kind of bad intentions can a child have? Not to mention Shang is so cute, the scent on her body actually makes her feel comfortable. After staring at each other for a while, Bibidong stood up and walked towards Shang with his tall and perfect body. Your name is Shang. Bibidong lowered his head and looked at the adorable child in front of him. He had not felt much before, but as he approached, he found that the child exuded a peaceful and friendly aura. By his side, it seemed that her soul had been elevated. Since that incident, her soul has been shrouded in dust, and it has been a long time since she felt this way. Bibidong's tone couldn't help but soften. I'll call you Shaoan. All right, Sister Pope. Sister. Do you call me Sister? Bibidong couldn't help but laugh. Considering her age, she could already be her mother. Looking at the lovely child in front of her, she couldn't help but think of that child, and didn't know how she was now. For that child, she had extremely complex emotions. If it was love, every time she saw her, she would think of that humiliating thing. If it was hate, she was flesh falling from herself. Of course, the dean's grandmother told me to call a beautiful woman sister, and sister is the most beautiful woman I have ever seen. Shang-An's words interrupted Bibidong's gradually drifting thoughts. I saw Shang-An looking up at Bibidong, his big black eyes filled with innocence. A slick-tongued little devil. Bibidong let out a soft drink, but couldn't help feeling a little happy in his heart. There is no woman who doesn't love beauty. But as Bibidong became the Pope, his authority grew even stronger, and his subordinates trembled every time they saw her, let alone speak to her so recklessly. Nowadays, I am actually called sister by a child. Although I don't say it verbally, I am still very grateful in my heart. Perhaps only children who don't know anything dare to behave like this, and if others are so reckless, they may not have been directly slapped into flesh by her. Of course, this is because she didn't know that Shang-An's heart was even more reckless, treating her as his future wife, otherwise Shang-An might not be able to leave this papal palace. Shaoan, release your martial soul for me to see. Shang-An obediently extended his right hand, and a bead wrapped in chaotic-colored airflow appeared on his right hand, with a sense of evolution, but without the powerful pressure of his first awakening. Indeed, it is a divine-level martial soul. Bibidong looked in shock at the mysterious bead surrounded by the chaotic airflow in front of her. She could feel the powerful power contained in the bead, just like that annoying child. No. Even stronger. Although it was known for a long time that Shang-An had an innate level 20 soul power, which was highly likely a divine-level martial soul, he was still very surprised when he saw it. Because divine-level martial souls cannot be transformed solely by mutation. So far, there are only two known divine-level martial souls in the world, the six-winged angel martial souls of Qianjia and the sea god martial souls enshrined in the sea god island. There has never been a precedent for ordinary people to mutate into divine-level martial souls. Bibidong thought of the child's orphan status. Perhaps he could send someone to investigate Shang-An's specific background and see if he could find any clues. Shaoan, what is the name of your martial soul? Too much. Shang-An is still preparing to use the precursor of the martial soul, the name of the bead magic tool he refined himself. 2-1 bead, 2-1 bead. Bibidong muttered, feeling somewhat unaware and sharp. Shaoan, are you willing to worship me as your teacher? Apprentice. Shang pondered to himself that since being adopted by the Martial Soul Hall orphanage, he had been destined to be bound to the Martial Soul Hall, and the family of the Martial Soul Hall was very wealthy, which would be helpful for his cultivation and research. He is such a divine-level martial soul, a genius with innate soul power of level 20. Even if he doesn't want to join the Martial Soul Hall, the Martial Soul Hall will definitely not let him go. Moreover, with his demonstrated age and talent, the Martial Soul Hall will at least arrange for the title Douluo to teach him. Therefore, it is better to worship a group of bad old men as teachers than a beautiful master, as his strength is strong and pleasing to the eye. And in the 21st century, teachers and students were not impossible either. Ahem, it's a long way to go. I am the Pope of the Martial Soul Hall. If you become my disciple, I will use the best resources of the Martial Soul Hall to cultivate you. Bibi Dong continued speaking to Shang. Returning to his senses, Shang lifted his head and looked at Bibi Dong, who was somewhat expectant, with a sweet smile on his face. He immediately bowed to Bibi Dong as a teacher. Teacher. Very well, Shaoan, you will be my second disciple in the future. There is also a senior sister above you, who is 6 years older than you, but she is still studying at the Advanced Soul Master Academy of the Martial Soul Hall. I will take you to see your senior sister next time. Senior sister. A certain little fox came to mind in Shang's mind. Although Bibi Dong didn't mention it, Shang also knew that the senior sister should be Hulena. The golden generation of the future Martial Soul Palace is a bit of a romantic brain. Or to put it another way, the three beauties of the Martial Soul Hall have a bit of a romantic brain. Before Bibi Dong died, she was thinking about Udashi. Hulena, as an enemy, returned a message to Tang San during the decisive battle between Bibi Dong and Tang San. Qian Renxue disregarded past grievances, and recruited the son of the enemy who killed his father. After becoming a god, he pursued Tang San several times and stayed behind. It can be said that if Qian Renxue were a man, Tang San wouldn't be able to dance so happily. But since Shang has arrived, naturally these things will not happen again. Although there is no prejudice against Tang San, since he is destined to become an enemy, he can only endure hardship for his brother. Shaoan, from now on, you will be the second disciple to be personally passed down by the teacher. Seeing Shang's promise, Bibi Dong was also somewhat happy. As he flipped his hand, a silver white ring with exquisite patterns appeared. This is the storage soul guide that the teacher used as the holy maiden of the Martial Soul Hall. It is called Moon Falling Star and can be used to store living creatures, which will be the teacher's first gift for you to worship. Of course, you can also rename it. No need, I think this name is quite nice. Shang took the storage soul guide in his hand, which was also a rare treasure in his past life. Only a few items were available after Shang looted major sects, but unfortunately, they were all destroyed during his travels. And there are quite a few Douluo continent, although the production methods have been lost, there are actually many that have been passed down, and they can be purchased with money. However, what Bibi Dong gave is not the kind of mass goods. It contains 100 cubic meters and can also accommodate living creatures, such as the 24 bridges and 10 streets under the bright moon night. Thinking about it, he put the ring on his left ring finger. After all, it was given by his future wife. Bibi Dong naturally didn't understand this meaning. When he saw Shang accept it, he nodded in satisfaction and took his hand as he walked out. Shaoan, now I'll take you to choose a residence. Residence, don't I live with my teacher? We all live together in the orphanage. Shang asked knowingly. Of course not, you are now a disciple of the Pope, and there will naturally be a palace in the Martial Soul City for you to live in. However, since you are still young, you can choose to live in the teacher's palace for the convenience of the teacher's teaching. Bibi Dong covered his mouth and chuckled lightly. For some reason, he felt even more cheerful around Shang. That's good, I want to live with the teacher. Shang's eyes lit up and he said eagerly. In the temple, a handsome man with blonde hair, looking around 30 years old, is standing in front of the angel statue. This is one of the three great powers in the world today, the 99th level peerless Douluo, and the martial soul hall is dedicated to the 1,000 paths of flow. A black-robed man behind Qiandao Lu knelt down on one knee with a devout expression. Innate level 20 soul power, mysterious pearl martial soul. Yes, de fun. This is today's martial soul test report, and there is also specific information about Shang. The man in black quickly took out a stack of paper and respectfully presented it, with detailed information about Shang written on it. With a wave of his right hand, Qiandao Lu's soul power flew into his hand, carrying the paper. Shang Nan martial soul. Juzi, suspected to be a divine level martial soul, innate soul power. Level 20 origin. Unknown. Originally discovered by Weston, the purple-robed deacon of the Martial Soul Hall, on the road outside the Martial Soul City, unclaimed. Growing up in the Martial Soul Hall orphanage, he has a solitary personality and loves to read books. Meanwhile, this report was also presented in the hands of Bibi Dong, who frowned. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. The Unclear Origin of Shang. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. The Unclear Origin of Shang. Unknown background. Although Bibi Dong just asked a simple question, the deacon below was already sweating profusely. As the Pope who brought the Martial Soul Hall to its peak, Bibi Dong also has great prestige in the Martial Soul Hall. Except for the Hall of Worship, the other members of the Martial Soul Hall are highly convinced and respected by Bibi Dong. And this time, he was unable to complete the task assigned by the Pope well, and the deacon's heart was also very anxious. Yes, yes. Seeing that Bibi Dong was not angry, the deacon continued. We have repeatedly investigated the road where Prince Shang was originally located, and all those who passed by or lived nearby 6 years ago have been investigated one by one. No one has been found to have lost or abandoned their children. Just like, it's like suddenly appearing there, isn't it? Yes, Your Excellency the Pope is wise. Well, that's all for this matter. You can go down. Bibi Dong waved his hand, and the deacon below bowed again before quickly leaving the papal hall. After the deacon left the papal palace, Bibi Dong lazily stretched out his body, propped his forehead with a jade hand, and collapsed on the papal throne, with a thoughtful expression on his pretty face. Bibi Dong is not foolish, on the contrary, she is very intelligent and has a strong wrist. Otherwise, it would be impossible for her to control the Martial Soul Hall and develop it to its peak under the suppression of the 1,000 paths flow. It can be said that except for the matter of Udashi, her intelligence is always online at other times. She also has speculations about Shang's background, perhaps related to the legendary gods. However, she has achieved the pinnacle of level 97 Douluo and is still the inheritor of the Rakshasa god, with confidence in suppressing Shang. By the time Shang grows up, she may have completed the divine examination and become the new generation of Rakshasa gods. Besides, Shang is still her disciple, and she is confident that as long as she is here, Shang will eventually become a minister. Suddenly, she looked up at an empty space in the main hall. Since you're here, come out now. Sure enough, you're almost here too. A middle-aged man with blonde hair suddenly appeared and looked at Bibi Dong with a hint of surprise. Humph, Qiandao Lu, who allowed you to break into the papal palace without permission. Bibi Dong stood up with a cold tone and a terrifying and powerful aura pressing towards Qiandao Flo. Qiandao Lu is not inferior, exuding the aura of a 99-level peerless Douluo. The holy knight outside the papal palace felt a sudden tightness in his heart, as if there was some great terror, but soon this feeling dissipated, like an illusion. Bibi Dong, don't forget who pushed you to this position. Qiandao Lu restrained his momentum and gave Bibi Dong an indifferent glance, but she was ultimately Schwer's mother, and he couldn't really take action against her. Moreover, Bibi Dong is now different from before and is not someone she can suppress at any time. If she disregards the use of her divine power, the outcome of the fight would be hard to say. Xian Dao Lu. Now I am the Pope of the Martial Soul Hall. Bibi Dong is not inferior at all. She is still very wary of Qian Dao Lu. The recent clash of breath seems to be evenly matched, but in fact, she has already fallen behind. If it weren't for Qian Dao Lu taking the initiative to regain his momentum in the future, he would have suffered a heavy loss. Even if she holds the Rakshasa magic scythe, she may not be a match for Qian Dao Lu, but it is impossible for her to give up. The two faced off for a while, but it was Qian Dao Lu who broke the silence first. That child. Don't even think about it, he is my disciple. Bibi Dong watched Qian Dao Lu with caution. Qian Dao Lu thought for a moment, but after all, he didn't argue anymore. If it had been before, he might have argued with Bibi Dong. But as Qian Renshue grows, his only thought now is to fulfill the wishes of the 1,000 families for countless years, and let go of everything else. With a flash of his figure, Qian Dao Lu left the papal hall, leaving only one sentence in the air. Remember, you are always the Pope of the Martial Soul Temple. Looking coldly at the departure of Qian Dao Lu, Bibi Dong sat back on the papal throne. She didn't have the strength to confront Qian Dao Lu yet. I will cultivate my own disciples, surpass her, defeat her, and trample on the hopes of your 1,000 families. Wait and see. At night, a room not far from Bibi Dong's dormitory has been cleaned up and used as Shang An's room. Shang An is lying in bed with his eyes wide open. Looking back on everything in my mind today, I believe the Martial Soul Hall has already been investigating my origins. Anyway, I can't find anything, and maybe there will be some associations of divination. However, Bibi Dong is still a trouble. Although she is so amiable to Shang An today, he knows that this woman has actually gone crazy. She is so paranoid in her heart that she wants to destroy the Martial Soul Hall and destroy everything. If she continues like this, the Martial Soul Hall will still follow the old path in the original work. He is basically tied to the Martial Soul Hall, so naturally he is not willing to praise Tang San's stinky feet. Suddenly, Shang An flipped over and jumped out of bed, deciding to save the Martial Soul Hall from changing Bibi Dong. Dong dong dong, dong dong dong, Bibi Dong was wearing pajamas, his proud curves faintly visible, standing at the entrance of the dormitory, watching the small figure knocking on the door in front of him. Shaoan, what's wrong? Teacher, I'm afraid of the dark. Shang An said pitifully, his big eyes flickering with tears. Bibi Dongdun was amused. She thought there was something wrong with this kid, but to her surprise, he was afraid of the dark. Shaoan, learn to be independent. Looking at Shang An's pitiful big eyes, tears welled up in them, as if they were about to fall. After all, Bibi couldn't continue speaking. Ah, Shaoan, why don't you sleep with the teacher today, just this once? Shang An immediately turned his sorrow into joy and happily hugged Bibi Dong's thigh. Yes, teacher. This may be the benefit of having strong charm, and Shang An expressed great satisfaction with the effect of his Great Freedom Manual on enhancing charm. Next, Shang An took off his shoes and coat and lay obediently on the bed. Bibi Dong looked at Shang An's small head and smiled slightly. Shang An could be said to be the first male to enter her palace. Then, Bibi Dong also lay lightly on the bed, and at her point, ordinary meditation was no longer useful. Perhaps one can step into a new realm with just one understanding, or perhaps be trapped in a realm for a lifetime. Instead of indulging in painful meditation, it's better to sleep and relieve the daily mental fatigue, perhaps breaking through in your sleep. Lying in bed, Bibi Dong was full of thoughts. She had never been so close to any man before, even though it was just a boy, she somehow agreed to Xiao An's request. Feeling the soft and peaceful aura emanating from Shang An's body, she was somewhat fascinated, and her daytime panicked thoughts involuntarily let go. Unconsciously, Bibi Dong fell asleep. Following the instinctive guidance of his body, Bibi Dong involuntarily approached Shang, seemingly feeling insufficient. In the end, he embraced Shang as a pillow. Shang looked at the nearby ravine with no waves in his heart. After all, his body did not support him. However, he came here today not only to sleep with Bibi Dong, but more importantly to arouse Bibi Dong's obsession. Unconsciously changing Bibi Dong to prevent her from becoming too obsessed and following the old path. Normally, it is not possible to silently compare the use of spiritual power by Bibi Dong with the strength of Shangan, but Bibi Dong's own obsession is too deep, and his soul is riddled with wounds. It can be said that one has already been possessed by demons, and in the world of cultivation, one's heart has long been filled with demons. At this moment, Bibi Dong is still in sleep, and his mind is almost defenseless, which gives Shang an opportunity. The next day, Bibi Dong was getting ready to stretch out from her sleep. She hadn't slept so comfortably in a long time, and it seemed like she had a dream last night. In her dream, she turned 18 again. There was no Chihiro disease or Yu Shaojiang in the dream. She took Shaoan to play at the beach like a child. Wait, Shang'an. Bibi Dong suddenly woke up and saw Shang'an being held in her arms, with her other hand still touching Shang'an's buttocks. Bibi Dong's pretty face turned slightly red, and before Shang'an woke up, she gently placed him on the bed before tiptoeing away. She felt a wave of shyness in her heart. At this moment, she had a feeling of awkwardness to the point of being overwhelmed. Bibi Dong comforted himself in his heart and quickly left the dormitory while Shang'an was still awake. However, it's quite comfortable to sleep with Shaoan in your arms. Bah, hold on, can't think anymore. After Bibi Dong left, Shang'an slowly opened his eyes. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Little Fox Hulena. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Little Fox Hulena, it's quite comfortable. Shang'an felt the lingering warm fragrance on the bed in bed, recalling last night's experience. After sleeping in Bibi Dong last night, he bypassed Bibi Dong's spiritual defense line through the martial soul of the great freedom demon lord, arousing Bibi Dong's deep-seated obsession and evil thoughts, and calming Bibi Dong's mind with the power of his soul. Slightly dispelled Bibi Dong's crazy evil thoughts, while guiding Bibi Dong's obsession towards himself. Yes, guide Bibi Dong's obsession to herself and make herself her new refuge. This is a big project that not only requires guidance from obsession, but also requires Shang'an to deepen emotional communication with Bibi Dong in daily life. It's not that it can't be accelerated, but because the jade dampness has a special meaning for Bibi Dong, not just love, but a spiritual sustenance. As Bibi Dong's first love, Udashi was forced by her own master to commit the promiscuous act and was imprisoned for a year to conceive and give birth. At that time, Bibi Dong's heart was dim, and as her first love, Udashi became the only light in her heart, constantly beautifying with the passage of time. After Bibi Dong's illness and the confusion of seeking revenge without a goal, Udashi became an important driving force to support her survival. Of course, this is only Shang-An's speculation, but combined with the original plot and Shang-An's deep understanding of Bai Dong's obsession after comparing her soul, overall, it should be no less than Shang-An's speculation. However, it was also because Shang-An's cultivation was still shallow. Yesterday, in order to calm Bibi Dong's mind and exert a slight influence on Bibi Dong, he had already exhausted all of Shang-An's mental energy. After finishing it, he fell into a deep sleep in Bibi Dong's arms. If Shang-An had the power of a divine king, it is feared that in the blink of an eye, he could influence the entire Douluo continent's creatures and turn them into his devout followers, without any conflict, because people would find that this is what they think. At this moment, two beautiful women, one big and one small, were standing inside the papal palace. The big one had a graceful figure and a noble temperament, while the small one had a slender figure and a pure face, but carried a charm. Shang-An stepped into the papal hall, first scanning the two people in the hall, and then bowing to Bibi Dong. "Good morning, teacher." Bibi Dong chuckled lightly and reached out to lift Shang-An up. You and I, master and disciple, don't be so polite. For some reason, Bibi Dong wanted to get closer to this new disciple, rather than being as particular about etiquette as outsiders. Good teacher. Shang smiled and responded with ease, taking Bibidong's left hand and standing to his left. Is this senior sister? Shang turned his head and looked at little Loli standing on the right side of Bibi Dong. Although it is a question sentence, the tone is very affirmative. Oh, Shaoan, how did you guess? It's not difficult to guess. The teacher only said yesterday that he would take me to meet his senior sister, and I heard that she is as close as a mother and son to the teacher. Today, the teacher is so close to people that if I still can't recognize her, wouldn't it be foolish? Nana, I'll just say your junior brother is clever. Bibi Dong patted Hulena's head, and she could see that Hulena was wary of her new junior brother. As a teacher, she naturally hoped that the two of them would get along harmoniously. Junior brother is the best. Hulena's reaction was somewhat unexpected for Bibi Dong, but it was always a good thing for her siblings to get along well, and Bibi Dong did not delve into it. Actually, when she heard that the teacher had taken in another disciple, Hulena was very unhappy and disliked that unknown junior brother. Originally, the teacher only had her own disciple, but now she has an additional junior brother. She is afraid that her favor will be separated by the new junior brother, which has led to Hulena's vigilance and even hostility towards the new junior brother. In Hulena's heart, Bibi Dong is not only her teacher, but also her family and mother, so she doesn't want anyone to take away the favor that belongs to her. But after seeing Shang, all the dissatisfaction and vigilance had already been thrown into the country of Java. It's simple, Hulena is a senior beauty control. In the original work, before Tang San awakened the Blue Silver Emperor, although Hulena was defeated by Tang San's strength, she still did not like Tang San and even regarded him as an enemy. After Tang San awakened the Blue Silver Emperor and transformed into a beautiful man to meet him, his attitude changed. Even after learning about Tang San's identity later on, he still remembered him and transformed into a female-licking dog, even willing to betray the martial soul hall. And Shang-An's appearance, even the appearance of the Blue Silver Queen awakened by Tang San in the original work, will be crushed, and it is also crushed by the attractiveness of his appearance and temperament in all aspects. Although Shang-An is still young, his handsome silhouette has begun to emerge, coupled with his unique attraction and powerful talent. For Hulena of the Yen Control Party, it is simply a killer. If Fan Yen has 1/3 of Shang-An's beauty and temperament, he has already caught up with Hulena. However, Yen is just an ordinary handsome guy. In the eyes of ordinary people, he may already be a talented and handsome Prince Charming, but in Hulena's eyes, he is just a bit lacking in meaning. Not to mention Yen is still a licking dog, licking a dog cannot be used. Alright, Shaoan, today I'm bringing you not only to get to know each other, but also to take you to hunt for soul rings. Coincidentally, Nana has also reached level 30 and can go and obtain the third soul ring. Bibi Dong interrupted the frowning senior siblings in front of him and said to them. Hulena silently withdrew her evil hand that wanted to grab her junior brother's face, and the regret in her eyes was almost overflowing. Who could refuse to pinch the cute junior brother's chubby little face? Teacher, did you take us there? Shang-An's eyes were filled with just right expectations and doubts. Well, it's not a big deal today, so I'll have Master and Elder Ju take you to obtain soul rings. Okay. Hulena didn't think too much, she was just happy to be with her respected teacher and dear junior brother. That's right, now Shang-An, who has just met, has been upgraded to a dear junior brother. After all, didn't the teacher say that siblings are like a family, they should be harmonious, friendly, and help each other? Hulena from the Yen Control Party faithfully followed the teacher's guidance. The exclusive soul hunting forest of the Martial Soul Palace. A luxurious carriage was walking on the street, and pedestrians and surrounding carriages actively avoided it because it had the emblem of the Martial Soul Hall on it. The carriage stopped not far from the entrance of the soul hunting forest, with several guards of the Martial Soul Hall standing at the entrance. The strange coachman said to the person in the carriage behind him. Under the Pope's crown, the soul-hunting forest has arrived. This strange coachman is naturally the chrysanthemum Douluo who was traveling together this time. To put it strange, it is because chrysanthemum Douluo is not like an ordinary coachman. The coachman is exposed to wind and sun every day, and his skin should be dark and rough. And the skin of chrysanthemum Douluo is as delicate and tender as a baby, with a seductive appearance that gives people a special feeling. Men and women are more like women than women. If it weren't for the Adam's apple on their neck, no one would think they were a man. And the main purpose of this operation is to hunt soul rings for the 2 disciples of the Pope, so it won't be a big show. Only Bibi Dong led chrysanthemum Douluo to go out. The 2 disciples of the Pope are still young, and the Pope is so noble, so the hard work of the carriage driver can only be handed over to chrysanthemum Douluo. The curvaceous elder sister, the Pope, walked out of the carriage with a little loli and a little zhengtai. This peculiar combination caught the attention of many people around her, but not many dared to make any crooked ideas. Leaving aside strength, just the emblem of the Martial Soul Hall is enough to make many people hesitant to harbor evil thoughts. These people living around the soul-hunting forest are not disciples of any sect. How dare they confront the Martial Soul Hall? In the eyes of these ordinary soul masters, the Martial Soul Hall is an unshakable holy land for soul masters. Even Bibi Dong and his companions didn't take these people seriously. They were just some inconspicuous little characters. If they didn't have special opportunities, they would only be one of the common people in their lifetime. Perhaps one day they would die at the mouth of a soul beast, or perhaps they would end up with injuries and illnesses and return home for retirement. The 4 people of Shang all have storage soul guides on their bodies, with dry food tents and miscellaneous items inside, so they wear lightweight clothes, forming a sharp contrast with the surrounding Horcruxes. A few people walked to the entrance, and chrysanthemum Douluo took out a bishop's token. The guards immediately saluted and the 4 of them entered the soul-hunting forest. Slowly delving into the forest, a natural aura rushed towards us, surrounded by lush grass and ancient trees. The magical beauty of nature is undoubtedly revealed. However, despite the picturesque scenery here, the danger is not insignificant at all. Despite the seemingly vibrant earth, it is unknown how many soul masters have shed blood on the forest. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Red Spirit Fox King. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 Red Spirit Fox King, Shaoan, do you know the distribution of soul beasts? On the way, Bibi Dong suddenly asked, and there was a description in Shang-En's materials that he loved reading books. Bibi Dong also had some thoughts about taking the exam. Shang-En naturally realized Bibi Dong's ideas, but he has been reading books for many years and may not have access to any confidential knowledge. However, there are still introductions about various soul master forests, and Shang-En has also focused on understanding them. Soul beasts are mainly distributed in 2 large soul beast forests and more than 10 small soul beast forests. The 2 major forests are the Starry Forest and the Sunset Forest. Small soul beast forests, such as the Haagen-Dazs Soul Hunting Forest, the Tiendo Soul Hunting Forest, and the Soul Hunting Forest in the Martial Soul Palace where we are located. Among them, the Star Do Forest is one of the largest gathering places for soul beasts on the continent, with a huge area spanning across the Heavenly Do Empire and the Star Luo Empire, and containing various types of soul beasts. The Starry Forest is further divided into outer, mixed, and core areas, as well as the legendary land of great ferocity. The closer you get to the center of the forest, the stronger the soul beast becomes. There are even soul beasts that have been around for 100,000 years inside. Any soul master with enough strength and good luck can find the most suitable soul ring inside. The Sunset Forest is located to the east of Tiendo City and is a rich forest, rich in advanced soul beasts. Its overall strength is weaker than that of the Star Forest, but its living environment is better, and its regional division is similar to that of the Star Forest. However, Sunset Forest has a higher level of safety and is suitable for mid to senior soul masters to search for soul rings. Small forests, on the other hand, have a smaller area because most of them are considered to be captive by humans, so powerful soul beasts are rarely seen. Moreover, the regional division is relatively rough, and the forest we are in is only divided into peripheral and core areas. This type of forest is more suitable for mid-level soul masters to hunt soul rings. Shang spoke confidently and calmly, indicating that he had a deep grasp of this knowledge. But then he said with a hint of uncertainty. In addition, there are two places in Douluo continent where there are many soul beasts. One is the sea, where there are also many sea soul beasts, and the sea is boundless. I guess the soul beasts in it may not be weaker than the mainland. The second is the extremely northern region, which is rarely visited by humans, so most people do not know much about it. However, ice attribute soul beasts can survive well. Currently, although there are few people visiting the extremely northern region, there is a lack of information. But the Arctic region has existed for a long time and few people hunt for soul rings, so the development of soul beasts is not affected. Therefore, I believe that the Arctic region even has a complex number of 100,000-year soul beasts, and their overall strength is not weak, perhaps even better than Sunset Forest. Bibi Dong watched as Shang talked about the distribution of soul beasts, calmly and unconsciously overlapping with a figure in his mind. Although that person's appearance was not as good as Xiao Wan's, their confident appearance was incredibly similar. Of course, Shang didn't know that Bibi Dong was comparing him to a certain wet person in his mind, otherwise he would definitely show an expression like eating shit. Wow, Xiao, you're amazing. Hulena's eyes lit up, and Shang looked so handsome just now. I really want to be with him. Hulena's words also brought Bibi Dong back to reality. She looked at Shang with admiration in her eyes. Shang words just now did give her a great surprise, especially the part about the sea and the far north. These are not usually recorded in books, even if they exist, they are just a few words. Because currently, people in Douluo continent do not have a deep understanding of these two places. However, Shang was able to make reasonable inferences based on only a few words. You should know that Shang is only 6 years old. If his soul master talent was not too good to waste, perhaps he could have achieved even more amazing results in the theory of soul masters. Not bad, Xiaoan. Your talent in soul master theory research is not inferior to that of a friend of mine. However, you still need to guard against arrogance and impatience, and strive to cultivate. Remember that cultivation is the foundation of everything. Having experienced the breakup with Yu Xiaojiang, Bibi Dong knows that strength is the foundation. If she had the cultivation of being titled Douluo or even peerless Douluo, who would have dared to criticize her emotions? How could Qinshu and Ji dare to do such a beast-like thing? Friend, Udashi. Shang disdains it in his heart. Udashi has talent, but it also depends on who he compares to. Compared to him, Udashi is also worthy. However, he should still say, I know my teacher, and I will definitely work hard to cultivate and protect him in the future. Then you have to work hard. Bibi Dong pinched Shang's small face. It feels really good. However, what Shang said about protecting him can only be seen as a joke. After all, she is already a top-level Douluo at level 97 and still carries a divine lineage. In this Douluo continent, who can harm her? However, seeing the seriousness in Shang's eyes, Bibi Dong's heart couldn't help but tremble slightly, and he added another sentence. Come on, teacher, believe you. I also want to protect the teacher. Hulena also hurriedly said, while silently saying in her heart. We also need to protect our junior brother. There is a situation ahead. The hard-working detective Ju, who was walking at the front, suddenly stopped and saw a large number of soul beasts in his spiritual perception ahead. Under the Pope's crown, I will first go ahead and investigate the situation. After Bibi Dong agreed, Douluo quickly took off. Although he and Bibi Dong are at the pinnacle of Douluo, it is impossible for anything to happen in this small soul beast forest, but if you are not afraid of 10,000, just be afraid of the unexpected. And as a migrant worker, he always has to show his attitude in front of the boss Bibi Dong. What a strong bloody smell. Chrysanthemum Douluo was flying rapidly in the air and soon approached the area ahead where the situation occurred. A strong smell of blood rushed towards him, making him frown. As the distance drew closer, he slowly lowered his figure. Although the soul-hunting forest posed no threat to the title Douluo, it was a good quality for a qualified soul master to be cautious. After waiting in place for a moment, Bibi Dong and his companions turned back, holding a fiery red fox in their hands. This fox has shiny fur, which appears to be the favorite of some wealthy women. Unfortunately, at this time, its body is covered in bloodstains and scars, which damage the integrity of its fur. Otherwise, it could be sold for at least a few hundred gold soul coins. At this moment, the fox was already on the brink of death. He casually threw the fox aside and respectfully said to Bibi Dong, "Under the Pope's crown, there are two groups of soul beasts fighting ahead. My subordinates discovered a 1,600-year-old red spirit fox king, which is very suitable for Miss Hulena. They took the initiative to capture it and brought it back." Bibi Dong responded. "Elder Ju did a good job, Nana. Please thank Elder Ju soon." Nana Duoxi Ju Elder, Hulena gratefully thanked Ju Douluo. "No need to thank you, go and absorb the soul ring quickly." Ju Douluo waved his hand and then looked at the fiery red fox beside him. "I just hit it a bit too hard, and if I don't hit it again, it will die." Upon hearing this, Hulena didn't say much. She took out a dagger from her soul guide and directly inserted it into the neck of the red spirit fox king. The red spirit fox king widened his eyes and stared straight at Hulena, his eyes filled with resentment and unwillingness, as if he wanted to firmly remember her. Unfortunately, in the end, the fox eyes gradually lost their charm and a purple soul ring converged from the corpse of the red spirit fox king. Hulena sat cross-legged and entered a meditative state, starting to guide the soul ring. Bibi Dong and Shang waited on the side, while Douluo guarded the surroundings. Shang carefully watched as Hulena absorbed the soul ring, hoping to understand its meaning. His eyes kept flashing with a light called wisdom, and as he watched, he gave up. His spiritual strength is still too weak now, and his spirit cannot be fully exerted. It is impossible to decipher the essence of the soul ring just by looking with his eyes. After another moment, the soul ring slowly entered her body, and Hulena stood up to stretch her body. The girl's charm was fully displayed. After absorbing the soul ring, her physique also grew, and the scale of certain parts became even more outstanding. "Teacher, I succeeded." "Well, Nana, let's use your third soul skill." Bibi Dong was not surprised, as successful absorption is normal. As a top talent trained in the martial soul hall, if a soul ring that meets the age limit cannot be absorbed, then she is not worthy of being her Bibidong's disciple. "Okay, teacher." Hulena's martial soul was possessed, and behind her appeared a fox phantom, surrounded by 3 yellow, and purple soul rings. She had 2 fox ears growing on her head and sharp claws popping out of her fingers, making her even more charming. Despite her young age, she already had a hint of a mischievous temperament. On the side, Shang was amazed to see the scene of the martial soul possessed, truly a demon fox. If he were seen by some Furue controllers, he might not have been able to control it on the spot. The setting of Douluo is chaotic, and the following is a synthesis. 91.94 Ordinary Title Douluo, 95.98 Peak Douluo / Super Douluo, 99 Ultimate Douluo / Extreme Douluo. Then there is the issue of lifespan. Stepping into the title Douluo requires multiplying the remaining lifespan by 3. In other words, if you are granted a title at the age of 90, you will not have many years to live. If you are granted a title at the age of 20, your lifespan will be over 200 years. Then, for each level of promotion, the lifespan will increase by up to 100 years depending on each person's lifespan. Then, setting Do Air, Tang San changed the rules and reduced the lifespan of the title Douluo. The setting of Douluo has been comprehensively integrated. 91.94 Ordinary title Douluo, 95.98 Peak Douluo / Super Douluo, 99 Ultimate Douluo / Extreme Douluo. Then there is the issue of lifespan. Stepping into the title Douluo requires multiplying the remaining lifespan by 3. In other words, if you are granted a title at the age of 90, you will not have many years to live. If you are granted a title at the age of 20, your lifespan will be over 200 years. Then, for each level of promotion, the lifespan will increase by up to 100 years depending on each person's vitality. Then, setting Do Air, Tang San changed the rules and reduced the lifespan of the title Douluo. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Crystal Turtle. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Crystal Turtle, Third Soul Skill. Demon Fox Transformation. Hulena let out a coquettish shout, and the purple soul ring on her body flickered, emitting a pink glow throughout her body, and her momentum surged. Immediately after, the first yellow soul ring flashed. I saw a ball of fox fire in her hand, with extremely high temperature. She casually threw the fox fire towards the ancient tree next to her, and the fox fire instantly covered the tree. In just a moment, the ancient tree was burned into a piece of charcoal. Teacher, my third soul ring can comprehensively increase mental power by 150%, attack power by 150%, speed and strength by 200%. When using the third soul skill, it can achieve more than 3 times the attack power when combined with the first soul skill. Nana, not bad. Bibi Dong is quite satisfied with Hulena's soul skill. Xiaoan, senior sister, is amazing. Hulena said to Shang with proud anticipation. Senior sister, that's great. Shang was perfunctory with Hulena while pondering that if Hulena's demon fox martial soul evolves in the future, perhaps she can truly become a demon consort who is not inferior to Daji and causes harm to the country and the people. As for how to evolve, it naturally depends on the immortal grass. Anyway, in the future, Shang, the eyes of ice and fire, will definitely go to retrieve it. Actually, Shang doesn't have much resentment towards Tang San, at least the first one is okay, although Tang San was exposed with various false double standards in his previous life. But Shang believes that besides knowing clearly that he is not a good person, there is nothing better than Tang San. Upon careful consideration, double standards are human nature. People always try to embellish their behavior, but Tang San has also deceived himself, or rather, in his perception, he is the righteous side. After all, he grew up in the Tang clan and his code of conduct is the so-called Xiantian Baolu. He is rigid and stubborn, and this personality is not surprising. As for the massacre of the city, it can be said that it massacred a large number of Soul Master armies in the martial Soul Empire, laying the foundation for the victory of the alliance of the two countries, led by Tang San. Moreover, what he did in a small Japanese country himself was much more ruthless than Tang San. It goes without saying which is more important, whether it is one's own family or strangers. As for fairness, there is no such thing as fairness. Why should one compromise oneself for the benefit of a group of strangers? Shang, who has walked through the chaotic times, can see very clearly. That is to say, in the past, various divine kings had conflicting divine powers. Although the two divine kings, life destruction and good evil, were lovers, they could not be in contact. The Shura god was also a single dog, unable to give birth to offspring. The several divine kings balanced each other, otherwise it remains to be seen what the divine realm would be like at this time. And even so, doesn't Shura often use his power for personal gain, otherwise how did Tang San resurrect? The former may be due to Tang San's unwillingness for others to inherit, and in Shang-En's opinion, it is too petty. The latter has nothing to say about avenging his mother, and their stance is different. Their buttocks determine their heads. If he were Tang San, he would also choose to destroy the martial soul hall, but he would establish a new force to replace it instead of leaving a mess. In addition to these criticized points by netizens in his past life, Tang San actually has advantages because he lacked love in his past life. Therefore, in this life, he is good to his family and devoted to love. At least Shang believes that he cannot be a lifelong couple. However, since he wants to be an enemy, Shang doesn't care about Tang San's character. Even if the Virgin Mary blocks his way, he can still kill him without fail. As for worrying about Tang San's threat in the future, Shang never felt that Tang San could win over him. This was the confidence of the only cultivator who had emerged from the end of the Dharma era. In terms of talent, he is a twin god level martial soul, born at level 20. In terms of appearance, it is not an exaggeration for him to say that Douluo universe has been the most beautiful man in billions of years. In terms of martial arts, his Great Freedom Manual crushes the so-called internal mental skill, Xiantian Gong. In terms of talent, he amazed both ancient and modern times, and walked out of his own path in the end of the Dharma, while Tang Sanqing held a book called Xiantian Gong. Comprehensive crushing, my advantage lies in me. Just Tang San, there is nothing to be afraid of. He suddenly looked up at Zhu Douluo, pondering in his heart. He didn't have any immortal herbs in his past life, but there were quite a few exotic flowers and herbs, which were completely different from those in Douluo continent. To obtain immortal herbs, it seems that he still needs to rely on the immortal grass classic, passed down by the Zhu Douluo family. However, there are still a few years left, so it's not urgent. Zhu Douluo felt a little uneasy when he saw him, and unconsciously accelerated his pace as the group continued to explore in the forest. Shaoan, your martial soul is a gem-type martial soul that can become a control or auxiliary-type soul master. The teacher recommends that you follow the path of a control-type soul master, but the choice still depends on yourself. Teacher, I will follow the path of controlling the soul master. Shang naturally followed Bibi Dong's arrangement, and although auxiliary soul masters were popular, Shang preferred to be strong alone. Great, do you have any thoughts on soul rings, Xiaoan Yu? Bibi Dong looked towards Shang. Teacher, both my first and second soul rings hope to be amplification-type soul skills. Xiaoan, why do you choose this way? Bibi Dong was somewhat surprised by Shang's choice. Teacher, as far as I know, low-level attack-type soul rings are not very useful for high-level soul masters. In the later stage, it is almost rare to use those low-level soul skills again, while amplification-type soul skills are still very useful even when it comes to title Douluo. Shang explained, but at the same time, he didn't mention one thing, which is that he has inherited the Taoist teachings from his past life and is not lacking in so-called self-created soul skills. Obviously, the amplification type is more suitable for him. Bibi Dong nodded clearly, and she wouldn't interfere too much with the disciples' own choices. In some aspects, she was still very open-minded. As for the lack of attack power in the early stage of soul ring configuration, it is not a big deal for the martial soul hall. After all, in the whole martial soul city, there are countless high-level soul masters, and there is no need for Shang to go on stage and kill enemies alone. The two of them further discussed the issue of obtaining soul rings. 5 days later, teacher, it's quite difficult to find a suitable soul beast. Shang wiped the sweat off his forehead and said to Bibi Dong. At this time, Shang was dressed in rags, his cute little face was also stained with a lot of dirt, and sweat was still flowing on his forehead. No matter how strong Shang used to be, he is now just a 6-year-old child. Even after practicing the body refining technique Tai Yi Xian Yuan Shen in the Great Freedom Manual. But I didn't have much resources in the orphanage before, but I can still get started, and after experiencing 5 consecutive days of forest travel, I do feel quite tired. Previously, Hulena easily found suitable soul beasts, and in her past life, when watching Douluo, the protagonist team found soul beasts quite easily. I didn't expect it to become so difficult for herself. It seems that I have a too divine perspective. After all, this is a real world, and I cannot simply speculate based on what is in the novel. Shang should reflect on himself in a timely manner, and this mentality is not acceptable. Shaoan, searching for soul beasts is not an easy task. An unlucky soul master may take 1 or 2 months to find a suitable soul beast, and your requirements are so high, so it is normal to spend more time. Bibidong took out a handkerchief from his pocket and gently wiped away the sweat on Shang-En's face. The handkerchief carried a faint fragrance that soaked into his nose, seemingly relieving Shang-En's fatigue. Put away the handkerchief, Bibidong said. It's getting late too. Let's rest on the spot and continue searching tomorrow. Okay. Hulena rushed in front of Shang-En and said that the search in the past few days has also been difficult for the child. Although Hulena is a soul lord, her body is not strong enough and her mind is not resilient enough. At this moment, the state is not as good as Shang-En's. His face is dirty, like a big flower cat. Oh no, big flower fox. Afterwards, Douluo took out the tent from the soul guide and started building it, and Shang-En also stepped forward to help build it. As a titled Douluo with soul power protection, even after staying in the forest for 5 days, Guan and Bibidong's bodies remain spotless. In fact, the search for Bibidong in the past few days also has some implications for training the 2 disciples. After all, disciples cannot always live under the wings of the teacher. Now, Bibidong is also quite satisfied with the 2 of them, especially Shang-En. Although he was the weakest among the few, he didn't shout a word of exhaustion after a few days. He was so strong that even Bibidong felt a little heartbroken and truly recognized this disciple. Otherwise, he wouldn't have used his handkerchief to wipe Shang-En's sweat. The next few people sat together and started eating dry food, with Bibidong, Hulena and Shang-En sitting together, while Douluo sat slightly further away. It is generally not suitable to start a fire in the soul beast forest to prevent attracting soul beasts. Although Bibidong and Douluo are fearless, they are also using this method to teach their disciples by example. Ow! A clear and loud roar came from the front. There are soul beasts. Douluo immediately put down his dry food and flashed forward to investigate, while Shang-En and the others continued to sit in place. After a few days, they were no longer surprised and continued to chew on the dry food in their mouths. When he returned, Douluo held a blue turtle the size of a grinding wheel in his hand. The turtle is covered in blue and gold, as if made of crystal. Its limbs are not like ordinary turtles, but rather slender. It also has a slender and powerful tail covered in scales. At this time, its ferocious head is still struggling, but it is suppressed by the soul power of Chrysanthemum Douluo and cannot move. Crystal Turtle. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Junior Brother Unknowingly. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Junior Brother Unknowingly, Bibidong said in surprise. I didn't expect there to be a crystal turtle in this soul-hunting forest. I thought this soul beast had become extinct. It's okay, it will have to go extinct again today. Shang-En looked at the crystal turtle in Douluo's hand and said, he can feel that this crystal turtle is very suitable for him. Shaoan, the crystal turtle is a top-notch soul beast. It is said to have Xuanwu bloodline in its body, and a 1,000-year-old crystal turtle is comparable to an ordinary 10,000-year-old soul beast. This crystal turtle shell is the size of a grinding wheel, and its cultivation should be around 1,100 years old. Shaoan, are you sure you want to absorb this soul ring? Bibidong stared at Shang-En previously. Shang-En had told her that the first soul ring intended to absorb a millennium soul ring, but her first reaction was to refuse. According to that person's theory, the limit of the first soul ring was only 423 years, and Shang-En's first soul ring absorbed a millennium. Isn't this seeking death? As a teacher, she naturally cannot let Shang-En die. However, Shang told her a lot of unreasonable things, and instead of convincing him, he was convinced by him. What kind of innate level 20 soul power, divine level martial soul, is also unprecedented? What about having a resilient heart and a naturally strong physique? At first, Bibidong was not moved, but Shang had been struggling these days. After Bibidong's examination, Shang's physical condition was indeed much better than his peers. Later, for some unknown reason, Bibidong acted strangely and agreed to give Shang a try. But at this point, Bibidong still looked serious and repeatedly asked Shang. Meanwhile, Chrysanthemum Douluo also spoke up and advised. Shaoan, if you don't look for it anymore, the first soul ring will absorb a century-old soul ring first. The Millennium Soul Ring is still too dangerous. Shang took a deep breath, bowed to Bibidong first, and then said. Teacher, Elder Ju, I won't gamble on my future. My martial soul told me that this turtle is very suitable for me and I want to give it a try. Shang naturally wouldn't joke about life. After comparison, he knew that his physique, who had practiced the Tai Yi Xian Yuan Shen, was not weaker than that of Hulena, the Soul Lord. Moreover, he had the Zizi Jing to dominate the formation, just a Millennium Soul Ring, and he still had confidence. A few people stopped persuading when they saw the situation. Ju Douluo threw the crystal turtle to the ground, and a soul force pressed against it, causing its glands to be exposed and unable to retract. Shang took out a dagger from the soul guide and slowly walked towards the crystal turtle. Shaoan, let's take action. This is something you must go through. Soul masters and soul beasts are natural enemies. You don't need pity. The promotion of soul masters requires soul rings, and they are destined to be natural enemies. For soul beasts, humans are just food, so it is natural for humans to hunt and kill soul beasts. Bibidong said to Shang. Shang nodded, he wouldn't have any mercy. In a world of the fittest, weak urination is a sin, that's why he wants to become stronger. Looking at Xian Gui's blue crystal neck, his eyes were sharp and his hands were quick. The dagger was also incredibly sharp. With a single stab, Xian Gui lost his life in an instant, and his resentful eyes gradually lost their expression. He reluctantly closed his eyes. A purple halo condensed from the body of the crystal turtle, and the soul ring suspended above the crystal turtle, emitting a mysterious purple light. Shaoan, have you really thought of it? Bibidong couldn't help but ask another question. Junior brother. Hulena also showed concern and hesitated to speak. Shang blinked at Bibidong and the others, indicating their peace of mind. Then, Shang sat cross-legged on the side, raised his right hand, and a pearl appeared. Today, he will truly embark on the path of cultivation, which is also his first step towards enlightenment. Stabilizing the mind and concentrating attention on the martial soul, the soul power is concentrated in the palm, attracting the nearby soul ring. The soul ring is pulled and flies towards Shang, while the purple soul ring contracts and moves towards Shang's Tai Yi Ju martial soul. A surging force surged into Shang's body, seeming to burst his body. He was truly a top-notch soul beast, the crystal mysterious turtle. However, this force was quickly suppressed by the powerful body and then transported into the tendons. With the operation of the Great Freedom Manual, these soul powers were quickly absorbed and transformed. At the same time, Shang was also carefully feeling the power of the soul ring. When Hulena absorbed it before, he was only watching from the sidelines, seeing only the surface. This personal experience may reveal the secret of the soul ring. Beside Shang, Bibidong Hulena looked anxiously at Shang, who was absorbing soul rings. Junior brother, there won't be anything wrong, will there? Hulena didn't wait for anyone to answer, but muttered to herself. Junior brother, there won't be anything wrong. Bibidong opened her mouth and didn't say anything. She had never seen the first ring of the millennium, even with her knowledge. It is unknown whether Shang can succeed. Although he has only recently accepted his disciple, Bibi Dong has truly recognized Shang as his disciple and is naturally extremely concerned about his situation. She stared intently at Shang, interrupting him whenever there was a sign that he couldn't hold on. Although it might damage his foundation, it was better than dying. Fortunately, Shang-An's face did not show any discomfort, and he did not see any signs of difficulty throughout the process, as if absorbing it incredibly smoothly. Another 15 minutes passed, and Shang-An's momentum reached its peak, and the absorption of soul rings was nearing its end. Bibi Dong and Hulena also breathed a sigh of relief. At this point, bang! Not good. Bibi Dong was shocked and saw a burst of soul power in the area where Shang was located, sweeping up a cloud of smoke and dust, and several pieces of clothing flying out of it. Junior brother. Hulena shouted sadly. Bibi Dongfei needs to check the situation of Shang before approaching. Cough, teacher, I'm fine. Shang opened his eyes and saw Bibi Dong standing in front of him, with soul power condensed in one palm, as if considering whether to take a photo. He quickly spoke up. Just kidding, he didn't want to take this slap as he didn't fail to absorb it. Hulena also stepped forward. Junior brother, you are. The smoke and dust dissipated, and Shang stood up. He was dressed in a blue and gold body armor, which fitted Shang-En's body. The joints were connected by fabric-like substances, and the armor style was perfect, unlike everything in the human world. The armor still emitted fluorescence, resembling a divine battle armor. Wearing it on Shang, coupled with his perfect appearance, it looked like a young god. Looking at Xiao Jingtai wearing battle armor, Hulena's fox eyes were almost starry, and Bibi Dong's eyes were also stunning. Chrysanthemum Douluo reacted promptly. Young Master Shang, did you successfully absorb your first soul ring? Shang nodded, and Tai Zhu appeared, with a purple halo lingering on top of it, further highlighting its extraordinary qualities. Hiss. Chrysanthemum Douluo took a cold breath as he witnessed the birth of the Millennium First Ring today. Although he had been prepared before, he was still surprised when he saw it. As expected, the future of Lord Shang was limitless and he must make friends. Chrysanthemum Douluo silently made a decision in his heart. Shaoan, is your armor an external soul bone? Bibi Dong also regained his senses and looked at the battle armor on Shang-En's body. Bibi Dong said with some uncertainty, after all, she had never heard of such a unique external soul bone. Hulena also looked at Shang curiously with big eyes open. Teacher, I don't know either. This armor seems to have absorbed the soul ring and suddenly appeared inside me. Well, it should be a special type of external soul bone. It seems that you have good luck, Shaoan. Bibi Dong has no doubt. What kind of scheming can a 6-year-old child have? In fact, it is not wrong to say that this is an external soul bone. This armor was created by Shang himself. When absorbing the soul ring, Shang found that the soul beast itself contains a large amount of soul power, and the soul ring is only a small part of it. The formation of soul bones is speculated by Shang to be the condensation of soul power, bloodline, and soul of soul beasts. Soul bones contain the original soul skills and some soul power of soul beasts, so it is highly likely to be related to bloodline and soul power. Secondly, jealousy and resentment from soul beasts can also increase the chance of soul bones being born, so it may also be related to the soul. So Shang guided the remaining soul power and bloodline inside the crystal turtle, and used his spiritual power to round, flatten, and throw the remaining soul into the turtle shell. At the same time, he also tried to inject his spiritual power into the turtle shell. Then, it became what it is now. It can be said that Shang-En's bold idea was indeed successful, but to mass-produce soul bones, more experiments are needed. However, it's impossible to explain these to Bibi Dong, otherwise the explanation would be unclear, so it's better to let them misunderstand. With a thought, Shang-En's armor turned black, not as sacred as before, but more imposing. Once again, the armor transformed into a piece of clothing with a white background and golden edges. The material of the clothing was soft and elegant, with white as the main color and gold lines converging into patterns embellished on the white background. It looked low-key and luxurious. What a graceful and noble young master. Shang nodded with satisfaction. It seemed that after integrating the power of the soul, the external soul bone was indeed quite convenient, and he tried to incorporate it into his body. Ah, junior brother, I'm not ashamed. Hulena quickly covered her eyes with her hand, but for some reason, a 1 centimeter wide gap still appeared. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Playful Fox. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Playful Fox Bibi Dong is quite generous and doesn't feel embarrassed. After all, they have all slept with each other. Looking directly at Shang's body, he was amazed. His skin was tender, his body was flawless and white, and there were also small bean sprouts. On the contrary, Shang blushed a bit and quickly summoned the external soul bone again. This external soul bone usually does not consume soul power, and it comes with extremely strong physical and mental defense, making it difficult for the Soul Lord to break through. However, if used to resist soul skills and use the abilities inherent in external soul bones during battles, soul power needs to be consumed. Seeing Shang put on his clothes again, Hulena put down her hand that was covering her eyes in disappointment. Shaoan, what is your first soul skill? Bibi Dong asked. Shang summoned the martial soul, and a purple soul ring flashed. A mysterious silver exquisite cane appeared, with a pearl embedded at the top of the cane. Junior brother, is your first soul skill this cane? What is this cane for? Can it be used to smash people? Used to smash people, this cane seems quite hard and should be able to be used proficiently. It was twisted by Hulena. I am the Dharma Master, and even if it is from outside or in the mouth of a dead soul beast, I would never use a cane to smash people in such a crude way. Glancing coldly at Hulena, Shang reluctantly withdrew his gaze and said to Bibi Dong, seeing that Hulena was still smiling without any concern. Teacher, my first soul ring is called the Tai staff, which can condense into a staff. When using the staff, my defense, attack, soul power attack, and strength will increase by 100%. Not bad soul skills. Bibi Dong sincerely praised that Shang's first soul skill is even more powerful than many soul masters' third soul skills, and as an amplification type soul skill, it can still be used even at the level of the title Douluo. The soul ring level only limits the duration of the soul skill. Anyway, based on the strength of the title Douluo's soul power, it would be better to release it again when the time is up. With Shaoan's talent, it can be said that it is easy to be titled Douluo. Bibi Dong remembered someone's inference about the limit of soul rings, and it was obvious that Xiaofeng's first soul ring had far exceeded the so-called limit of soul rings. It seems that you are just like that, Bibi Dong sneered inwardly, not knowing whether it was for himself or for someone Xiaojiang. The voice of Shang came again, pulling back the thoughts of Bibi Dong walking further and further. Teacher, my external soul bone also has an enhanced soul skill. Shang continued to say, it can fully increase my strength by 100% without any time limit, until my soul power is exhausted or I cancel it myself. Moreover, wearing ordinary clothes on my body does not consume soul power. What is the percentage increase in all aspects? Bibi Dong was quite shocked, as the all-round increase included strength, speed, soul power, and other aspects. It can be said that he truly possessed soul bones. Wow, junior brother, can you change the style of your clothes freely with your external soul bone? That's like having endless beautiful clothes to wear. Hello, little fox, are you paying attention to something wrong? This is a 100% increase in all aspects. Shang was crazy and roast, but he nodded his head when he saw the little fox's expectant eyes. Heart said. Ah, indeed, no matter where the woman is, she can't escape beautiful clothes. Fortunately, the teacher doesn't have this kind of skin. Shang and suddenly saw an undisguised envy in Bibidong's eyes, and it was obvious that he was also quite interested in it. Women. Your name is Shallow. 2 days later, somewhere in the soul-hunting forest. Shang sat upright next to a large white cat corpse resembling jade, with a deep purple soul ring slowly fitting onto Tai Yi Zhu on Shang-An's right hand. Bibidong and the other two sat next to each other, while Douluo stood alert to the surroundings. Although it was their second time absorbing soul rings beyond their lifespan, the two of them were still quite worried. After all, Shang absorbed a white jade spirit cat that had been around for 6,000 years, which had already exceeded the limit of the fourth soul ring of the soul sect. Shang-An's face also blushed slightly, and his eyebrows furrowed slightly. He looked more worried than Bibidong and Hulena, but soon regained his composure. Obviously, Shang-An's soul ring, which had been around for 6,000 years, could barely withstand it now. After a moment, Shang-An stood up. At this moment, he looked much taller than before, about 1.4 meters and almost 1.5 meters, about the same height as those 9 or 10-year-old children. The outer soul bone. The Wanhua spirit robe. Also grew larger, fitting his height. It has to be said that soul power is still very effective in promoting development. When young, soul power can promote development, while in old age, soul power can delay aging, making it the best choice for health preservation. How are you, junior brother? Hulena leaned in again. Shang disdainfully patted away her claws that extended towards her face and said, I feel great, it's already level 27 now. The 2 soul rings that exceeded his lifespan and the soul power accumulated from his previous cultivation of the Great Freedom Manual allowed him to directly reach level 27, which was the level when Zhu Zhuqing enrolled in Shrek. Level 27. Wow. Junior brother, you're almost catching up with senior sister. If junior brother surpasses senior sister in the future, will you bully senior sister in the future? The little fox pretended to look like it was about to cry. Shang turned his head and pursed his lips, this playwright. Bibidong also found it quite interesting to see the two of them frowning on the side, and as he watched the playful duo, he inexplicably felt a match. Both of them are their own disciples. Although Nana is a few years older than Shaoan, it's not a big deal. If the two of them can really succeed, it would be a good thing. After all, fat and water don't flow into outsiders' fields. Do you want to match it up? Bibidong shook her head slightly again. Forget it, let's go with the flow. For some reason, she just thought of trying to match the two of them herself, but she resisted a bit, as if afraid that her beloved item would be taken away. Well, Nana was raised as a daughter, and whether or not she can catch up depends on Xiao-En's abilities. Yes, that's it. I just don't know if her true beloved in her heart is Hulena or Shang. Turning to his senses, he saw Hulena circling around Shang, who looked a bit perfunctory. No matter how he looked, it seemed like he was going to stick it upside down. Do you understand the importance of being reserved? Bibidong seems to have a few black threads popping out of his head. Is this what's called a female major failing to stay? Alright, Shaoan and Nana, since we have already absorbed the soul rings, let's go back. Interrupting the playful couple, Bibidong approached and grabbed their hands, while Douluo cleared the scene and the others began rushing towards the exit. Bang! Shang stepped on the Heavenly Gang 8 trigram steps and skillfully avoided the sharp claws of the tiger-like soul beast in front of him. The second soul skill lit up, and a deep purple halo appeared. His speed suddenly increased, and he detoured around its side. In his hand, a magic staff smashed towards the waist of the tiger-like soul beast. Roar! The waist was originally a fragile place, and after battling with Shang for so long, the soul power was greatly depleted. At this moment, he was severely injured and let out a low roar, unable to hold on anymore and collapsed to the ground. Junior brother, how impressive. Hulena looked at Shang with her feet on the head of this evil tiger and became a little fangirl. Shang-En's soul power surged under his feet, and he directly sent the soul beast back to the west. Then, he collected the body and walked towards Bibidong and the others. Shaoan, your combat awareness is really good. Bibidong also exclaimed in admiration at Shang-En. This evil tiger is a 1,000-year-old soul beast, comparable to a human soul master, and Shang-En defeated it without using an external soul bone, and it was almost unharmed. This kind of combat ability is not as good as Shang-En when Bidong was in the stage of the great soul master. Thanks to the presence of my teacher and Grandpa Ju, I dared to let go and fight wholeheartedly. On the side, Ju Douluo looked at Shang-En with a smile and a murmur. These days, Shang-En had feelings, Ju Douluo had intentions, and Bibi Dong was also happy to see this happen. Therefore, their relationship also developed rapidly. At this time, Shang-En said that his name for Ju Douluo had been changed to Grandpa Ju. Let's go, we're almost at the exit. The second soul ring of Shang-En is taken from the 6,000-year-old white jade spirit cat, which can increase its speed by 100% and attack power by 150%. To test my current strength. After staying in this soul beast forest for 2 more days, from a century-old soul beast to the millennium-old soul beast in front of him, Shang-En also had a clear understanding of his own strength. Normally, you can fight the soul master. If you use an external soul bone, even the soul sect is not invincible. However, when I go back, I need to practice using the gate staff technique. After all, I am only in a state of agility now, and many of the previously powerful martial arts and spells cannot be used. And the melee master is also quite cool. When someone breaks through numerous obstacles, evades attacks and comes to oneself, thinking that victory is imminent, he is knocked unconscious by his own staff. This feeling is very satisfying. End of this chapter.